In this entry of Exploring.net, you'll get an introduction to the Microsoft Azure Cloud. In the previous episode, we looked at .NET as a whole. In the next episode, we'll build a minimalistic web API using Azure Functions and Azure Cosmos DB. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Ruben, and it's my goal to help you learn software development with .NET. Links to the sources I used for this video can be found in the description below. If you prefer written content, check out the link to the blog post version of this video, also in the description below. So the name is a little different from the first episode because I decided to rename the series to Exploring.net because I think it sounds better than Demystifying.net. Right, so Azure is really opening up to a wider audience by offering generous free tiers and allowing anyone to create a free account. If you're interested in .NET development, it's a good idea for your career to be able to work with Azure. So let's get into it, and we'll start at the beginning. So what is Microsoft Azure? The Microsoft Azure Cloud, or just Azure, cloud platform is more than 200 products and cloud services. With Azure, you can build, run, and manage applications across multiple clouds, on-premises, meaning servers running in a company, and at the edge, meaning cloud and on-premises combined, also called a hybrid environment, with the tools and frameworks of your choice. If you don't know what the cloud is, well, the cloud is made up of servers in data centers all over the world. Moving to the cloud can save companies money and add convenience for users. Big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google already had to make big investments in data centers for their own infrastructures. Now they are basically renting these data centers out to the public in a productized way. Microsoft offers Azure, Amazon offers AWS, and Google offers the Google Cloud Platform. These are the three biggest players. In 2021, the combined cloud market did $180 billion in revenue. Amazon's AWS has the biggest market share of 33%. And interesting for us, the .NET developers, Microsoft Azure comes in second with a market share of 21%, and the Google Cloud Platform comes in third with 10% of the market share. To date, Microsoft has Azure data centers in 140 countries and serves more global regions than any other cloud provider. All these facts indicate that it's a good time to learn Microsoft Azure. A topic that confused me were these three cloud abbreviations. If you're doing anything in the cloud, you'll see these coming up a lot, so let's get into them. So these are types of products offered as a service. We have SaaS, which stands for Software as a Service. We also have PaaS, which stands for Platform as a Service. And we have IaaS, which stands for Infrastructure as a Service. The handy infographic to my left from Microsoft Azure's What is PaaS article sums it up nicely. So let's go over each of them in more detail. We have Software as a Service, also known as Cloud Application Services, and this represents the most commonly utilized option for businesses in the cloud market. Software as a Service utilizes the internet to deliver applications which are managed by a third-party vendor to its users. A majority of software as a service applications run directly through your web browser, which means they do not require any downloads or installations on the client side. Software as a service provides numerous advantages to employees and companies by greatly reducing the time and money spent on tedious tasks, such as installing, managing, and upgrading software. This frees up plenty of time for technical staff to spend on more pressing matters and issues within the organization. Some examples are Office 365, Gmail, and Dropbox. Alright, then we have Cloud Platform Services, also known as Platform as a Service, and this provides cloud components to certain software while being used mainly for applications. Platform as a Service delivers a framework for developers that they can build upon and use to create customized applications. All servers, storage, and networking can be managed by the enterprise or a third-party provider, while the developer can maintain management of the applications. No matter the size of your company, using Platform as a Service offers numerous advantages, including cost-effective development and deployment of apps, scalability, and high availability. Some examples are Azure App Service, Azure Search, and Azure CDN. And finally, we have Cloud Infrastructure Services, known as Infrastructure as a Service, and these are made up of highly scalable and automated compute resources. Infrastructure as a Service is fully self-service for accessing and monitoring computers, networking, storage, and other services. Infrastructure as a Service allows businesses to purchase resources on demand and as needed instead of having to buy the hardware outright. Infrastructure as a Service offers many advantages, including that it gets easier to automate the deployment of storage, networking, servers, and processing power compared to on-premises. Hardware purchases can also be based on consumption, so that makes it harder to waste money on a too powerful server. Last but not least, Infrastructure as a Service products are highly scalable. Examples are Azure Container Service and Azure Virtual Machines. So Azure is big, not just with the amount of products and services offered, but also in market share. According to Microsoft, 95% of Fortune 500 companies use Azure in some capacity. Let's continue by exploring some of the most well-known services Azure offers. So we have Azure DevOps, and that's one of the first Azure cloud services launched into the market. It allows you to collaborate on software development through source control, work tracking, and continuous integration and delivery, both on-premises and in the cloud. Azure DevOps consists of 6 main services, and that is Azure Boards, and with that you can deliver value to your users faster using proven agile tools to plan, track, and discuss work across your teams. You can track work with configurable Kanban boards, interactive backlogs, and powerful planning tools. It also has Azure Pipelines, and with that you can build, test, and deploy with CI/CD, so continuous integration, continuous delivery, that works with any language, platform, and cloud. Connect to GitHub or any other Git provider and deploy continuously. You can also run in parallel on Linux, macOS, and Windows, and deploy containers to individual hosts or Kubernetes. It also has Azure repos, and with that you can get unlimited cloud-hosted private Git repos and collaborate to build better code with pull requests and advanced file management. It also has Azure Test Plans, and with that you can test and ship with confidence using manual and exploratory testing tools. It even has Azure Artifacts, and with that you can share Maven, NPM, NuGet and Python packages from public and private sources with your entire team. You can also integrate package sharing into your CI/CD pipelines in a way that's simple and scalable. And finally, Azure DevOps also has an extensions marketplace. And with that, you can access extensions from Slack to Sonar Cloud to thousands of other apps and services. And many of those are built by the community. Alright, then we have Azure Blob Storage, and that's Microsoft's object storage cloud solution. It is optimized for storing huge amounts of unstructured data, meaning data that doesn't belong to a particular data model or definition. It's designed to add images or documents to the browser directly, writing log files, streaming media such as audio or video files, and storing data for backup and archiving purposes. Next up we have Azure Virtual Machines, and with this service you can run SQL Server, SAP and Oracle software and high-performance computing applications on virtual machines. You can choose your favorite Linux distribution or Windows server. You can get VMs optimized for specific workloads. We have burstable VMs, compute optimized VMs, memory optimized VMs, and just general purpose VMs. The per second billing makes this service even more desirable for businesses. You can deploy virtual machines featuring up to 416 virtual CPUs and 12 terabyte of memory, and it even has up to 30 gigabits per second Ethernet. A big advantage of virtual machines over on-premises machines is that you pay only for what you use. If an on-premises machine isn't always needed, some money is wasted. If the need arises, you can scale from 1 to thousands of VM instances in minutes with Azure Virtual Machine scale sets. Then Azure Cosmos DB, which offers a globally distributed, fully managed NoSQL database service. Think MongoDB but from Microsoft. This distribution involves a transparent multi-master replication. It is designed to ensure single-digit millisecond response times, and this guarantees speed at any scale. As it is fully managed, it does database administration by automatic management, updates and patching. Cosmos DB is also a multi-model with wire protocol compatible API endpoints. Next, Azure Active Directory, and that is a complete identity and access management solution with integrated security. The Azure Active Directory, abbreviated to Azure AD, Enterprise Identity Service, provides single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and conditional access to guard against 99.9% of cybersecurity attacks. The facility of single sign-on can help users gain simpler access to their apps from any location. It helps the employees sign in and access resources from both external and internal resources. Many consider it to be the next iteration of Microsoft's Active Directory that ran on Windows Server machines. Last but not least, we have Azure Functions, which basically allow you to run and host single functions or methods in object-oriented programming in the cloud. This is called a serverless architecture because instead of a full-blown API web server, you only have single functions with hopefully a few lines of code. This allows you to focus on the pieces of code that matter most to you, and functions handles the rest. You can use functions to build web APIs, respond to database changes, process Internet of Things streams, manage message queues, and more. Instead of worrying about deploying and maintaining servers, the cloud infrastructure provides all the up-to-date resources needed to keep your applications running. With the Azure portal, you can manage your Azure services via a web-based graphical user interface. If you're a command line enthusiast, don't worry, 99% of the things you can do in the Azure portal, you can also do via the command line. In summary, in the Azure portal, you can build, manage, and monitor everything from simple web apps to complex cloud deployments. You can create custom dashboards for an organized view of resources, and you can configure accessibility options for an optimal experience. This is what the Azure portal looks like when you first sign in, minus the dark mode. Microsoft has given a lot of thought on how to best structure Azure customers and the services they need for their IT infrastructure. It is structured as follows. So there is one Azure account. I think usually the CEO or the CTO owns this. This Azure account can have multiple subscriptions. A common way to organize it is to give each department their own subscription. Then these subscriptions use Azure services. Individual services such as a Azure Virtual Machine are called resources, and these resources can then be grouped into little folders called resource groups. The infographic above me, coming from the Microsoft Introduction to Azure Fundamentals learning module, sums it up nicely. To end this episode, I want to explore some jobs that people that know Azure can do. As more businesses flock to Microsoft Azure, demand for skilled cloud professionals is only going to increase. Right now, there's nowhere near enough Azure talent around to fill the increasing number of roles on the market. Companies are battling to land the best candidates, driving up wages in the process, and putting those with the skills to do the job in a very comfortable position. They say there's no such thing as a job for life anymore, and in a fast-changing sector like tech, it's certainly true that professionals need to keep upskilling throughout their careers to stay up to speed. But if you want to build a rewarding, lifelong career in tech, it is recommended to get on board with the cloud. According to IDC, almost 40% of all IT jobs will be cloud focused by 2021. Serverless computing is slowly becoming mainstream, and those who start equipping themselves with valuable skills now will make themselves harder to replace for years to come. Let's explore some of the jobs available to people that know Azure. There are many more roles out there than I'll cover, but I'll list some of the most well-known ones. First up, we have the Azure Administrator. So the role of administrator is a vital one across many technologies. Admins keep their fingers on the pulse of their systems, installing, configuring, and monitoring everyday functions and ensuring everything is running as it should. Azure administrators need to have a good grip on topics like SQL databases, backup and disaster recovery, virtualization, high availability techniques to ensure the Azure platform is in top shape at all times. They'll be expected to monitor the performance of Azure apps and services, perform audits, and proactively work to optimize functionality. As an Azure admin, you might be working in-house at an end-user organization, overseeing its own Azure products and communicating with users to help them get the most out of the services. Or you could be working for a Microsoft partner, providing managed services to their clients and working on a number of different Azure instances, or providing support for businesses migrating to the cloud. If you want to get a head start on your Azure administrator career, well, Microsoft has released a brand new role-based certification, especially for those interested in this position. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. As of July 2019, the salary of an Azure administrator with 4 to 7 years of experience is about $100,000 per year. Next up, we have the Azure Developer, and Azure developers build and deploy apps and services on the Azure platform. Having previous development experience is obviously a plus if you want to become an Azure developer, as is being familiar with other Microsoft products like PowerShell, Office 365 and Dynamics 365. Basically all products that integrate with Azure. As an Azure developer, you'll be charged with designing, creating, implementing and maintaining solutions from technical infrastructure to apps. You'll need to stay up to date with the latest developments in technologies and methodologies and understand how to translate them into practical, reliable solutions that solve business problems. Azure uses programming languages including JavaScript, C# and HTML5, so you'll need a thorough understanding of these to be able to develop for Azure. Experience with ASP.NET, SQL Server, jQuery, Angular and Visual Studio Team services will also be expected of Azure developers. Given the huge variety of products available on Azure, there's a range of specialisms you could move into as an Azure developer. You could develop for cloud storage, creating platform as a service solutions, infrastructure as a service solutions, cognitive services like bots and AI, storage or security, to name just a few. The corresponding certification for this role is the Microsoft Certified Azure Developer Associate, and I have had the pleasure to obtain this one, and I can highly recommend it because you'll learn a lot. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. As of July 2019, the average salary of an Azure developer in the US with 4 to 7 years of experience is about $150,000 per year. Finally, we have the Azure DevOps engineer, and these people are responsible for bringing together people, processes and technologies to deliver and improve first-rate products that meet user needs and business objectives on an ongoing basis. That means architecting, designing, building and implementing scalable Microsoft Azure solutions and working across areas like virtual machine environments, storage and network architecture. The role of a DevOps engineer involves extensive expertise, not only covering development and coding with PowerShell, .NET and C#, but also system deployment and the wider operations. they need to understand DevOps strategy, how to roll out continuous integration and delivery, how to implement dependency management and application infrastructure, and how to develop roadmaps for current and future cloud deployments. DevOps engineers will work hand in hand with system admins, architects, and developers, so they need to have good soft skills like project management and communication to enable them to promote a DevOps culture across their organization. As of July 2019, the average salary of an Azure DevOps engineer in the US with 4 to 7 years of experience is about $145,000 per year. So that's the end of this episode. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can contact me via the options on screen. As a final note, I want to say that if you're new to Azure and this video got you interested, I recommend studying the material for the Microsoft Certified Azure Fundamentals certification exam next. Just do the Microsoft Learn module. They are excellent and free, I believe. I'll add a link to that in the description below. In the next episode, we'll build a minimalistic web API using Azure Functions and Azure Cosmos DB, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was useful to you. Make sure you like and subscribe, because then I'll create more of this free content. You can download source code and other resources from the description below. Lastly, I hope you'll join our developer Discord community. In there you can chat with other devs and people learning software development. There's also a support channel to get help if you're stuck on something. Check the first comment on this video for an invite link. That's all from me. Good luck on your developer journey.